Welcome back to Soul Ascension Insights. My name is Dave Roberts and I'll be your host. The topics I cover, although fringe, are ones that ring true to me. My purpose is simply to talk about subjects that interest me, and if that gets someone to research these subjects further, all the better. With that said, let's get started with episode number 10 titled, The Hollow Earth. It's April 1829, and 19-year-old Olaf Jansen is going on one last great sea adventure with his father before starting a life of his own. They depart from Stockholm, Sweden, and travel north, making good time on a steady wind in his father's fishing sloop sailboat. They travel day and night, stopping when possible to rest and replenish their supply of water and food. By September, they notice that their compass has stopped working and the air has gotten warmer. They no longer see any sea ice or icebergs, and the sun looks like a mammoth ball of dull red fire, not a brilliant light, but surrounded by a white, luminous cloud giving out uniformed warmth and light. They appear to be sailing up a large freshwater river, where they see abundant wildlife and enormous trees. Suddenly, they hear singing and see a huge wooden ship coming towards them. The ship stops, and they see the people on board the ship are all around 12 foot tall and dressed in colorful silks. Olaf and his father have sailed into the inner earth. In the book The Smoky God, Olaf Jansen, the Norseman, claims to have discovered the lost Garden of Eden and to have spent over 2 years studying and exploring the marvelous within land and its people. Exuberant with stupendous plant life and abounding in giant animals. He reports clusters of grapes 4 and 5 foot in length, each grape as large as an orange, and apples as large as a man's head. A land where its people live to be centuries old. A region where 1/4 of the inner surface is water and 3/4 land. Where the cities are superlative in construction and magnificence. Where modes of transportation and energy generation are much further advanced than the surface. I've only touched on the adventure, challenges, triumphs, and tragedy of the true story of Olaf's journey from the Hollow Earth to getting his story out to the world. For the full adventure, I highly recommend the book, The Smoky God. It's a short book and a fascinating read. Olaf Jansen is not the only person who reported seeing the inner world. In 1935, the great Arctic explorer Admiral Richard Byrd claimed to have flown a secret mission low over the Arctic ice floes, where he saw a previously unknown land with forest and prehistoric animals. Even more incredibly, he claimed to encounter flying discs from a technically advanced civilization living deep within the hollow earth. Us surface dwellers have a lot to deal with. Solar radiation, violent storms, flooding, earthquakes, asteroid and comet strikes, and planetary changes in weather patterns. All of these things and more could adversely affect our life on the surface of Earth. None of these things would affect us if we lived deep underground. Our secret government has and continues to invest heavily in secret underground facilities. DUMB is a military acronym for Deep Underground Military Base. Some whistleblowers have stated that there are 131 dumb bases in the U.S. and 1,477 underground bases worldwide. They build these bases using nuclear-powered boring machines that melt the bedrock and seal the tunnel as they bore. They also report that there is a high-speed maglev train system that connects the American dumb bases from coast to coast. Now, don't expect to be invited into these bases, as they are black-budget, secret access projects, which means that your congressman and senator did not approve funding for these bases to be built, and what happens in these military corporate bases is unknown. I'll end this short episode by relating what a channeled extraterrestrial being said about the hollow Earth. Quote, "The Earth has a solid core with a floating mantle, but not a continuously solid mantle, and there are those beings who inhabit areas of the planet beneath the surface. They were, at the time of the upheavals of Atlantis, many who migrated through chasms opened by the shift of the crust into the planet itself. They took the knowledge from Atlantis to build and support themselves in these subterranean caverns. They are not bestial in nature, but are ancestors of your own, who have refined their intellect and society to a high degree. These beings inhabit an area which is partially beneath the Mexican Gulf Coast. They are genial in nature, with a more highly developed society than those on the surface. However, they are protective, and when attacked, they would defend themselves. At this time, the probability of violence is quite high if your two social structures met. There's also an area somewhat beneath the Antarctic Circle, which is inhabited by those beings who are interdimensional in nature. However, the Atlantean types are somewhat major in the sense they are planning on making their way to the surface. But the preparations being made are not resolved. There is some dissension on many different levels as to the appropriateness of the emergence as well as the timing. Discussions continue on this important subject. There are volumes of literature which speak the truth of these inner Earth civilizations readily available in your libraries. Therefore, the knowledge is not withheld, but is shared with any open-minded individual with the desire to know that which is." End quote. Thank you so much for joining me today on Soul Ascension Insights. As always, I'll leave a list of books on this subject below for those who wish to explore this topic further. You know, like me, you've probably heard the saying, "As above, so below." I always assumed it referred to heaven and earth, but after studying hollow earth theory, it could be referencing the surface and inner earth. Thanks for your interest and time, and I'll be back with more episodes.